What if I told you that hurting a cancer is one of the biggest mistakes someone can make, and most people don't even realize it until it's too late? At first, it may not seem like a big deal. Cancer doesn't always react immediately. They don't explode, they don't always confront, and they rarely show the full extent of what they're feeling in the moment. Instead, they go quiet. They observe. They feel everything deeply in silence. And that silence? It's not weakness. It's the beginning of distance. Because a cancer remembers everything. Every word. Every change in tone. Every moment they felt unappreciated, dismissed, or emotionally unsafe. While others move on quickly, cancer processes things on a much deeper level. Their emotional world is intense, sensitive, and incredibly real, which means when they're hurt, it doesn't just pass, it stays. And here's what most people get wrong. They think cancer will always be there. They mistake kindness for tolerance, patience for acceptance, love for something permanent and unbreakable. But the truth is, cancer gives chances not because they're naive, but because they care deeply. They invest. They nurture. They love in a way that feels like home. Being loved by a cancer is a rare experience. It's safety. It's loyalty. It's someone who pays attention to the little things, who feels your emotions even when you don't say a word. But once that trust is broken too many times, something changes. And when it changes, it's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's final. Cancer doesn't need revenge. Their absence is enough. The same person who once gave you everything, their time, their care, their heart, becomes distant, cold, and unreachable. And that's when the regret starts to hit. Because you don't realize what you had until it's gone. You don't realize how rare it is to be truly understood, to be loved deeply, to have someone who genuinely cared about your happiness. Cancer doesn't just love. They create emotional connections that are hard to replace. So when you hurt a cancer, you're not just hurting a person. You're losing someone who would have stood by you no matter what. And in this video, you're about to discover the 5 reasons why hurting a cancer is something you may regret for the rest of your life. Because once you understand them, you'll never see them the same way again. Have you ever wondered why hurting a cancer can be one of the biggest mistakes of your life? Among all the zodiac signs, Cancer is one of the most misunderstood, deep, and emotionally powerful. And the truth is, very few people are truly prepared to handle what really happens when you hurt someone like this. For some, Cancer is just too sensitive. For others, they seem cold, closed off, and hard to understand. But here's what no one tells you. Cancer doesn't change, they react. There's a huge difference between what you see and what they feel. On the outside, silence. On the inside, an entire ocean. And in this video, you're about to discover 5 powerful reasons why you should never hurt a cancer, because the regret can last far longer than you imagine. Each reason will show you a side most people ignore until it's too late. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps spread this message to those who need to better understand this energy. Cancer feels everything, far more than they show. Cancer is not the type of person who reacts impulsively. They feel first, absorb everything, and only then decide how to act. And that's exactly what confuses so many people. Because on the surface, it may seem like it was nothing. Like they didn't care, like they let it go, like they moved on. But the truth is completely different. While many signs express what they feel right away, Cancer does the opposite. They go silent, observe, process, and dive deeply into every emotion. Inside them, everything intensifies. A harsh word isn't just a word. A cold gesture isn't just a detail. An absence isn't just a moment. For Cancer, everything carries meaning, intention, and energy. They don't just hear what was said, they feel what was behind it. And that happens because their emotional connection runs far deeper than most people can perceive. Cancer has an almost intuitive sensitivity. They pick up on mood shifts, notice subtle distance, feel when something is off, even when nothing is said. It's as if they are constantly tuned into an invisible frequency, reading the emotional atmosphere around them. And when something hurts, they don't explode. They hold it in. They try to understand. They revisit that moment over and over in their mind, trying to make sense of it, trying to justify it, trying not to turn it into pain. But they don't always succeed. Because when cancer feels, they feel completely. It's not superficial, it's not temporary. It's deep, dense, and real. And that's where the most delicate point lies. You may never see the impact you caused. While you move on with your life, cancer is still inside, processing, reorganizing emotions, trying to decide whether it was something small or just another emotional crack. The beautiful side of all this. When they love with the same intensity. They care, protect, give themselves fully, notice details no one else sees. They genuinely care. They make you feel welcomed, safe, understood. But the difficult side is that this same emotional depth makes every wound much more lasting. So when you hurt a cancer, even unintentionally, you're not dealing with someone who simply forgets and moves on. You're dealing with someone who feels in silence, but never feels halfway. They never forget what they felt. Cancer may even forget what was said, but they never forget how they felt. And this is one of the deepest and most misunderstood characteristics of this sign. Because unlike many people, cancer doesn't just register events, they register emotions. They store the exact feeling of each moment, how they were treated, how they felt, what the energy was in that situation. And this creates an extremely strong emotional memory. It's not about holding grudges by choice. It's about not being able to erase what was truly felt. While others can rationalize, justify, or simply move on, cancer relives it. They can access that emotion easily, as if time hasn't passed. And that happens because, to them, feelings aren't superficial. They are deep experiences that leave a mark on the soul. A different look, a word said in the wrong tone, an absence in an important moment. All of this may seem small to someone on the outside. But for cancer, it creates internal records that quietly accumulate. And here's the most delicate part. They won't remind you of it all the time. They won't throw it in your face or create unnecessary conflict. On the contrary, many times they choose silence. They try to understand. They try to let it go. But internally, it doesn't disappear. It transforms. It changes the way they see you. It slowly reduces trust. Because cancer doesn't forget what happened emotionally. And most importantly, they don't forget how you made them feel. But there's also an incredibly beautiful side to this. If you treated a cancer well, they never forget that either. They remember who showed up, who cared, who offered support in difficult moments. They value small gestures, sincere words, genuine actions. This emotional memory isn't just about pain, it's about depth. The problem is, when the scale starts tipping more toward disappointment, something changes. Cancer may still be there, still talking, may even seem the same on the outside, but inside, they no longer feel the same. The connection begins to weaken, the emotional investment fades, and the bond becomes more distant. And when it reaches that point, it's not an impulsive decision. It's the result of everything that was felt and never forgotten. That's why hurting a cancer is not something that simply fades with time. Because time may move forward, but the feeling remains. When they close off, it's because something truly broke. Cancer doesn't shut down over just anything. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about this sign. Many people think cancer pulls away because they're overly sensitive or dramatic, but the reality is much deeper than that. When a cancer closes off, it's not an impulsive reaction. It's a consequence. Cancer is a sign that tries. They persist, they overlook things, they forgive, they give new chances, even when they're already hurt. Because before giving up, they do everything they can to preserve what they feel. They believe in the bond, in the connection, in the possibility that things can improve. But there is an invisible limit. And when that limit is crossed, something inside them breaks. It's not a loud break. There's no intense argument, no emotional explosion, no dramatic goodbye. On the contrary, it's silent, almost unnoticeable to those on the outside. But internally, it's final. The cancer who once opened up, shared, gave themselves fully, and showed up, begins to change. First, they talk less. Then, they share less about how they feel. Next, they start observing more than engaging. And by the time you notice, they're no longer there in the same way. This closure is a protection mechanism. Cancer doesn't shut down because they want to, they shut down because they need to. Because staying open would mean continuing to get hurt. And at some point, they realize they have to choose themselves. And that choice changes everything. Because when cancer decides to protect themselves, they don't easily return to who they were before. That emotional openness, that trust, that level of vulnerability are not things they offer again in the same way. And here's the strongest point. You can try to reconnect. You can try to talk, explain, fix things. But the cancer you once knew is no longer the same. Because when something breaks inside them, it's not just the situation that changes, it's the way they connect with you. The positive side of this. Cancer learns to value themselves. They learn to recognize when something is no longer healthy. They learn to create emotional boundaries, something that often took them a long time to build. The difficult side? The person on the other end usually only realizes this when it's already too late. Because while it seemed like everything was fine, cancer was, little by little, saying goodbye on the inside. And when that process ends, it's not a temporary distance. It's the end of a version of them that you may never see again. You lose someone who truly cared. Losing a cancer is not like losing just anyone. Because cancer doesn't pass through your life in a superficial way. They get involved, they connect, they genuinely care. They're not only there in the good or convenient moments. They show up fully with their body, mind, and most of all, their heart. And nowadays, that's rare. Cancer shows love in the details most people don't even notice. In the message asking if you got home safe, in the quiet care when you're not okay, in the way they remember small things about you, things even you forgot. They observe, they feel, they care. And it's not forced. It's natural. Because when cancer cares about someone, they create a safe, emotional space. They make you feel welcomed, understood, protected. It's the kind of energy that feels like home, a place where you can truly be yourself, without fear. But the problem is, many people only realize this after they lose it. Because while they have a cancer by their side, they get used to it. They start to believe that care is normal, that presence is guaranteed, that dedication will always be there. But it won't. Because even though cancer loves deeply, they also get tired of not being valued. They may try, insist, overlook behaviors, ignore signs, but there comes a moment when they begin to realize they are giving more than they're receiving, that they're putting in more effort than the other person, that they're the only one truly caring. And when that awareness hits, something changes. They begin to withdraw. They start to give less of what they once gave so freely. They observe more and invest less. Until one day, they simply stop. And that's when you feel the emptiness. Because that constant care disappears. That presence is no longer there. That connection is no longer the same. And then comes the regret. Not because cancer did anything to cause it, but because you finally understand the value of what you had. You realize it wasn't common. It wasn't easy to find. It wasn't something just anyone could offer. The beautiful side? Cancer loves in a real, genuine way. The difficult side? That kind of love doesn't come back the same once it's been broken. So when you hurt a cancer, you don't just lose someone who liked you. You lose someone who truly cared. And in today's world, that's much rarer than it seems. When they leave, it's final. Cancer doesn't walk away after the first disappointment. In fact, they are one of the signs that insist the most, try the most, believe the most that things can still work out. They hold on tightly to what they feel, overlook actions, create justifications, give second chances, even when they're already hurt. Because for cancer, Connection is not disposable. When they get involved, it's real. There is attachment, memory, history. And that's exactly why they take so long to let go. Not because they're weak, but because they value what they built. But there comes a point when staying hurts more than leaving. And when that point arrives, something inside them shifts in a quiet but irreversible way. Cancer begins to detach emotionally even before leaving physically. They think more, observe more, feel less. That intense attachment slowly gets replaced by awareness. That constant effort gives way to silence. And little by little, they let go internally. And when they finally decide to leave, it's not impulse. It's not anger. It's not pride. It's a decision. A decision built on everything they felt, everything they tried, everything they endured in silence. It's the result of a long, deep internal process, one that is often invisible to the person on the other side. That's why when cancer leaves, they don't come back the same. There may still be conversation, there may still be proximity, but that emotional openness, that intensity, that genuine connection are no longer what they once were. Because they don't forget the path they walked to get there. The strongest part of all this, cancer doesn't leave causing destruction, creating chaos, or seeking revenge. They simply withdraw. And that absence is heavy. It's heavy because it's silent. It's heavy because it's felt. It's heavy because you begin to notice everything they did, everything they represented, everything they were, only when they are no longer there. And that's when regret appears. Because you realize you didn't lose someone ordinary. You lost someone who tried, who insisted, who cared until the very end. But who, in the end, chose themselves. And when a cancer makes that choice, it's not just a goodbye. It's the closing of a cycle that rarely reopens in the same way. Because when they leave, it's final. Do you see how everything begins with emotion and ends with a decision? Cancer doesn't walk away out of pride. They walk away for protection. And the deeper they are, the less they tolerate being hurt. In the end, hurting a cancer is never just about the moment. It's about losing someone who truly felt. Because what many people call sensitivity is actually the purest form of connection someone can offer. And when you lose that, you don't forget. And if you made it this far, it wasn't by chance. This message found you at the right moment, and in some way, it touched something within your soul. So I truly want to thank you for staying until the end, for listening, for feeling, and for allowing yourself to dive into this energy with me. Now tell me in the comments, did this message reach you? Write 2929 to confirm that this connection found you. And if this content resonated with you, if you saw yourself in it or thought of someone special, join us. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any message. Like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Because when we share energy, we transform lives.